had to wear socks because my feet are freezing. So don't think less of me. My name's Fawn. I'm an addict. And I want to thank this committee or area for asking me to come out here and share today. It's a privilege to be here. Actually, when I was driving here, well, actually, my dear friend Hope was driving us here. The first thing I said to her when we were pulling in was, "Who the hell are these people?" Because I don't recognize most of you. Of course I don't, because I don't live around here. It's not my area. But it doesn't mean that I don't feel real comfortable to be here, because I know I'm with other recovering addicts and members of the fellowship. I brought a bunch of stuff that just, things that meant, this morning, I tell you, it was a strange day. I woke up too early because I'm very tired. And I'm obsessed with gardening now. I guess I'm getting old. But that's all I think about now is, going out into the garden and planting stuff. And so I don't shop for clothes anymore. I shop for plants. So I was up early. And I tell you, being out in the garden, because I just started getting into this about a year ago. And it puts me very much, it's very healthy for me spiritually and mentally, because it puts me very much into the here and now. When I'm out there, I just feel like I'm really, I feel serenity, because I always feel like I'm in the right place at the right moment, doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And it's a very good feeling, and I just feel very close to nature and God, and I have my privacy, and it's quiet and early in the morning. It's just a different world. I used to be really afraid of bugs, and so I never thought I'd get into this gardening thing. But believe it or not, with the exception of bees or anything that stings, I'm not afraid of bugs anymore. It's just, I don't even have to wear my gloves half the time. But that's one of the joys of recovery for me today, is doing things that make me feel like I'm in the here and now, because I like being in the here and now today. A long time ago, it wasn't that way. My world was filled with lots of illusions and delusions and fantasies, and I can say that today in my life, I'm not living like that anymore. Well, all right, I have few little fantasies we never get tired of, but as far as living illusions or strange thinking, I just don't. I don't think I'm there anymore. My life's pretty calm and steady, and it's pretty predictable every day. It's certainly not as exciting as it used to be. And you know what I mean by that. Every day we're living like we don't know where we're going, who we're going to end up with, how we're going to pay the rent. But there was something very dangerously exciting about that. It's funny, because when I think about my using and what I did in 1 year compared with maybe, 8 years in recovery, it's just so, 8 years. I mean, I've had the same job, the same friends, the same, So it's very different being clean, but it's a life that I never knew would be possible for me to have. I never thought I'd stop using. And I got here to NA when I was very young. I was almost 21. I was just shy a few weeks of my 21st birthday, and I was court committed to a drug program in California. That's where I'm originally from, and I didn't really want to get clean. I mean, I was in this one recovery house for 30 days, and it was a 9-month program. And after 30 days, my roommate said, the rehab, Cry Help down the road, that was the name of the other rehab, they're much better than where we are. I said, oh, really? And she said, oh, yeah, they're getting high and fucking and everything over there. And I said, oh, man, that's where I want to be. So I left. I actually left this place and went over to that place. Because I always want to be where it's happening. And, well, it was just a bunch of, hoo-hoo, because they were the same kind of institution as the one I was in. My PO ended up violating me. I had to go to court, almost got sent to jail. It was just a mess. So I ended up staying at this new place. And it was there that I was introduced to the people that would be very key to my formative years in the program. And it was also when I was introduced to the 12-step fellowship. We had NA back then. This was in 78. No, this would have been 75. But they were very small meetings, and people in treatment, they would divide us up at night. There were about 60 of us, and they'd send us out in vans to different meetings, much like how they do today. And the thing is, though, is we didn't have a seventh tradition. We had nothing to put in the basket. So they'd send us to the other fellowship, and we ate all their donuts and drank all their coffee and didn't put in. And if they said anything shitty about addicts, oh, well, there'd always be a big war going, a big thing that would start. So it was, this was in the San Fernando Valley, and this place. And I got clean with a bunch of convicts and lowriders and Chicanos. I didn't use with these people. I don't mean to sound better than that, because I was just a streetite myself. But their language I didn't understand. Their clothes I didn't understand. I was more Hollywood, so right away I didn't fit in at all. And things weren't going too good for me in the beginning, but that's just the way it was. But I started to, make the best of it, and I made friends, and when I got out of there, I stayed clean for about 2.5 years. But my recovery was really about dances and, it really wasn't working steps, working with a sponsor, because I didn't want to hang out in AA. I wanted to be with my people. I wanted to be with addicts. And so I stayed clean for about 2.5 years, and I went to lots of meetings in the other fellowship, and I guess I got thirsty one day, and I decided to drink. I had always had a reservation about drinking and smoking pot. My thing was I couldn't believe. I mean, all I wanted to do was stop using narcotics. How can having a glass of wine with dinner or smoking a joint every now and then be harmful? Well, when I did go out, I was such a lush. I mean, I never used to like drinking because it interfered with my high. So that's why I thought I wasn't. First of all, there was no disease concept back then. It was either, I'm taking my 30-day chip for NA and my 30-day chip for AA. That's what it was like. And everybody went, I don't care who they were, everybody that was an addict back then went to both fellowships because NA was very young and it didn't have a basic text. It didn't have a huge network. It didn't have paid volunteers, lots of things. Plus, it was in L.A. But anyway, let me see, where am I? Oh, right. And every time when I woke up to go to work, I was so afraid of using narcotics again that I kept my job. Because I figured, well, as long as I keep my job, But I was waking up at about 6:30 to get ready for work and on the freeway by 7 with a joint in my mouth. So I always was, all I did in 6 months' time was turn into a very, heavy, all my boyfriends were all of a sudden bartenders. And all I was doing was smoking dope and acting like an idiot. So after about 6 months, I'd had enough, and I decided I wanted to. Oh, I know why. Because I woke up one morning with my head in the toilet. So that's when I knew it's time to go. It's time to get clean. So, but this time I decided I wanted to go to NA. I didn't want to go back to the AA clubhouse. I wanted to make a commitment. And so I went to this place called Survivors Club. It was a clubhouse that in the valley where NA meetings were held round the clock. And it was supported by all recovering addicts and by the seventh tradition of each of the meetings. What it is they had like a board that made sure the rent was paid, and a board of recovering addicts, that is. But it was a great place because, a lot of times when you're new and you don't have a job yet and you don't want a job yet, you don't know where to go. So everybody hung out here, and every now and then a few guys would have to come in and kick the junkies out of the bathroom. And, there was always something happening back then at meetings, Well, there was the time when Ray got shot by his girlfriend. He didn't die, though, because he was fucking around. Now, that was exciting. That was news for about a month. They hauled her ass off to jail. And then there was always a good fist fight going on in the parking lot. Because if you didn't agree with somebody back then, it always seemed like somebody's ass had to get kicked. Not shot. Back then, people were still fighting. And so that was always happening. And I do love a good fist fight. Even today. I just do. I remember one time at a concert, I went to a concert, and it was just about to start, and I had to go get a drink first, a soda. And I went down to the concession stand, and these two guys were going at it. The concert started, and I was still there just watching this fight, and the guy got knocked out cold. So it was a very good fight. I thought I could miss, I think it was Genesis or something. Yeah. So that was, but anyway, so this is kind of how it was back in early NA. You had people, it was a lot of hardcore narcotics users in NA coming in the doors at that time. They had these new drugs hadn't come out yet, so it was pretty much you were either a speed freak, a junkie, depending on the music, pretty much seemed like the way it went. Things went. So when I came back, I decided what I wanted to do different was, commit myself to Narcotics Anonymous and see if it would work. I went to the Survivors Club meeting every night for 30 days, and I didn't date anybody. At 35 days, I did meet somebody. And he was great. I mean, he was a wonderful man, and he had 5 years clean. That's a long time. He had a job, and he didn't live with his mother, and he had a car, and he didn't need my money. So there were lots of good things going about this relationship. So I decided, all right, I'm going to go for it. And that's what I did. And we both had a really close relationship. And he was very close to, he was originally from New York. And he'd been living in Los Angeles for quite a while. He had walked across. His story was, I walked across this country to get clean. And so he was very serious about recovery and very good influence. And I think the greatest thing that Doug ever gave me was the blessing of introducing me to some of the finest people that I have ever met. And up to that time, I thought I'd met a lot of interesting people, but he took me over to Jimmy Kennon's house one day, and Jimmy was like a sponsor to him, but Jimmy at that time refused to sponsor anybody, so he would go over there and hang out a lot. And they'd known each other, for 5 years, and so I didn't even know who Jimmy was at the time. I still, my head was still like, how we are when we're new, you don't hear or very much or understand very much because your wheels are still spinning, and somebody will say something and you'll start thinking, oh yeah, right, Pop-Tarts. I remember them, and meanwhile they finish talking. But so that's pretty much how my head was, So I would go over there, and I instantly felt very comfortable in this house. He was a very engaging conversationalist, very, very smart man, and I know because I'm very smart, and so I got along with him instantly, and his house had lots of books, poetry, classic literature, and he was always on his feet. And I learned later that the reason he was always on his feet was he was always answering the phone. At that time, our World Service office was in his house. And this was just a little house. I think it had like 2 or 3 small bedrooms, 1 bathroom, 1 story across the street from an airfield. And so, I started to hear more about, what he did and what the World Service Office was. And the more I went over there, the more I'd hear about Narcotics Anonymous. And I started going over there without Doug, just to help out because I was a secretary. I could type fast. I could do all the office stuff. And he really needed help badly. So going there, I met other interesting people too, people with long years of recovery. There was Bill Beck, who recently died. He died this February. He's our fat addict in the Little White Book. And we got to be very good friends all these years. In fact, some of you might remember him a few years ago at the Ocean City convention. He and I split the history workshop, and he was In fact, he shouldn't have been traveling. He had serious surgery, and I found out later that it was crazy for him to make the trip, but he did, and he was very impressed with the fellowship out here. He thought that the addicts were, very excited and interested, and they loved Narcotics Anonymous. And sometimes in California, that's not to say, I can't speak for everybody in California, but sometimes they take it for granted. They take NA for granted because it's just been there forever. And, the history out here is a lot different than the history in Los Angeles, in California. So I met him, I met Chuck and Phil, and all these people would become my core people as I formed my foundation of my program. And when you're new, you will meet these people, and you'll never forget them. You may forget their names every now and then, but you'll remember what they did for you. Not so much what they said, but how they made you feel. And it's usually they made you feel relaxed and comfortable and at ease. And so once you're feeling that way, you can open up and start talking and not feel nervous or scared or that you're going to say something stupid. And so what I would do is I would go over there, do some work, and then, there would be times when people would start drinking coffee or sit around the kitchen table or go into the living room and sit down. And I would hear the conversations and what was going on in NA, and not that all that much was going on because meetings were pretty much confined still to California. So the volunteer nights were on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and this is when work was to be done. And what the work consisted of was the little white books. They'd come in from the printer, and we would all in sheets like that, and we would be stapling them. So we'd have to staple here and staple there. And so that was one job. The other job was taking these things and folding them into thirds. So that was some of the work. Then another thing that was done was Jimmy was very proud of the what were those old stencil machines? Mimeographs. Yeah, that's them. The purple ink. Right. Well, he had one of those, and that's what we used to print stuff. And he would always show one of the guys that came over with his sponsor from Cry Help, would teach him how to use it. Jimmy always loved turning newcomers on to NA, and that was his life. He would just light up talking to newcomers. So I would sit around and I would try and I wanted to learn this thing big time and fast. I was in a hurry. So I would just listen to what people were saying and try and figure it out. And I remember one time Jimmy was sitting right next to me, and I said, hey, tell me about this 8th tradition. And, well, you have to understand, when Jimmy, if you're familiar with literature like Another Look, Recovery and Relapse, there's some really deep things in some of our IPs and in our little white book. And if you ever think, what the shit does this mean? That's usually Jimmy's writing. But you'll understand it later, okay? Remind me that I said that, because something's going to come up later. Jimmy was a firm believer in self-reliance. And when I mean that, I don't mean it as a character defect. I mean it as something that comes about after you've hooked up with a higher power and are living on a different plane, you will you will learn how to rely on yourself. You will trust your thinking. You will trust your actions. You'll learn. This is one of the things that you learn, and it's not bad. It's not a bad thing. So I was hearing things from him that I never heard at meetings, and so anyway, I asked him, "What's this eighth tradition about?" Well, he could go on, and after about 5 minutes, I totally lost it. I don't even know what he was talking about, but it wasn't because he was speaking another language. It was because I just wasn't there yet. I was still in a fog, and still learning about the first 3 steps. So I wasn't really, ready to hear about the concepts of the traditions and the ideas behind them and why they were there and why we needed them. And but it was just, I look back on that day very fondly because it was just one of many moments that I had with him, and I learned to really love him and appreciate him. He was one of the, well, actually, there's a few men that I have made friends with in this program, and don't try to hit on me, but Jimmy was probably the first. Now, you have to remember, I was a lot younger, okay? All right, now, I do have one of the things in the writings. Hold on. Oh, God. Hope, where are my glasses? Oh, here they are. Sorry. One of the things in the readings that I mentioned earlier was that section in, I always think it's recovery and relapse, but it's not. We do recover. Okay. And we do recover. Wait a minute, is this it? Oh, here it is, yeah. That wordless language of recognition, belief, and faith, which we call empathy, created the atmosphere in which we could feel time, touch reality, and recognize spiritual values long lost to many of us. I never used to know what that meant. It sounded good, but I just never really knew what it meant because I'd never felt it. And it took me a long time in coming to meetings and working the steps and making lots of mistakes and having experiences to learn what feeling time and touching reality means. Today, I feel it all the time. I feel it in my garden. I feel it when I have my quiet time. I feel it when I'm driving on a nice road. I feel it a lot of times because it puts me in the here and now. And as I get older, because I've actually grown up in Narcotics Anonymous, and I have so much life experience that I do know what feeling time means now, because I have gotten older and I feel the passing of time. I feel the present. I feel the past. I don't think that much of the future anymore, but I do have a sense of time and really feeling it, not being preoccupied with something else. And touching reality is when it's right there, what's right in front of you, And so that was one thing. There's another part. Well, there's so many parts. Another look was beautiful too. It is beautiful, but I remember one year at a conference, they didn't understand the self-reliance thing. So they wanted Jimmy to fix it. So first they were going to withdraw the whole piece. They wanted to shit can it. But he changed it. It had to do with through God reliance we become self-reliant. I mean, come on. But anyway, service back then was not like it is now. In fact, let me show you some things. Or let me hold up some things. How's that? Oh, another thing that we used to do is, Jimmy, while we were all arguing in our areas, in our region, Jimmy had a world vision. Okay, he had always had this vision of NA happening, all over the place. So he thought that having like a newsletter or some kind of something that went out to different places would generate more interest in NA, get the word out there. We already had the hotline, and actually how more people found out about it was in the jails. Anyway, so he came up with this idea to have the voice. Okay, and now this is a fancy version because I came around and would type the inside. He loved doing the outside because he used to like doing those, what are those things, that you, no, it's like a thing that you have to press down and the thing comes out on paper. Stamps? Yeah, something like, no, not stamps. Stamps is when you go, yeah, all right, stencil, yeah. Decals, that's it. Shit. Can you tell I'm getting older? One day I'll be standing up here going, oh. But that's the kind of stuff he used to love, doing the world and then doing these little things and picking out the font. And then I would do the typing on the inside. This is nice typing because back then we'd had a typewriter without the correcting thing. So when there was a mistake, I either had to do it over or use that purple thing. You remember those? All right, you know what I'm talking about. So what these would be is like, this was sort of like what we see in our areas, little newsletters, and he would try and get stories from, here's one from Sioux City, Iowa, North Hollywood, Anonymous, California, Winchester, that must be Massachusetts. Then there was one from Bombay, India. What do you know? Bill McL from Western Australia. Oh, I thought that was our Bill. Sandra. Well, so, it was hard getting, It was hard getting stories from a lot of people from around the world because there just wasn't a lot of people all over the place yet. So that was the voice. That was like a big project. And Jimmy's hope was that eventually when NA would have a book, it would be from the stories that people sent in to this. Because, nobody had an idea for a book yet. Then our world directory. Here's an example of a world directory. I actually typed this one. And how I managed to do it was my boss had a week off of work. And so we had a Watts line. And I would just call every single meeting, the contact person at the top, and ask them and confirm, is there a meeting there, blah, 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 and they would tell me, update me or whatever. Because when you started a meeting, you were supposed to send in notice to the World Service Office so they could get you in the World Directory. So, even today when people tell me where they are, I still see the words, and then, that's nothing. Let me show you something really wild. Oh. This used to be a world directory. This was just meetings, needless to say, in California, where telephone numbers, oh, well, in one of these, the telephone number was like, LA 34141. Some of you won't even know what I'm talking about. Here's a little one, June 77. It's kind of sweet. Eventually, by the way, there was Northern California and Southern California. And those were the two regions. And the World Conventions only happened at one of these two places, either Northern California or Southern California. And what would happen is I had on the Sunday of the World Convention, people would, about this big, because there are not that many interested people in knowing where the next world would be. But they would gather for the meeting at around 10 o'clock in the morning in a room about this size. And what was going to happen was the vote was going to take place over where the next World Convention was going to be, either Northern California or Southern California. And what was very heavy about this, it was very serious, the regional rep would have a proposal that would be read from the podium explaining the dinner, the banquet. Why you should vote for us is because we're going to have some good fucking food. And it's going to be at a really good place, the Holiday Inn or, someplace, right? So, this went on and then a show of hands would go up. And that's how it was done. Oh, and then the vote counters. It's usually 2 or 3 people would count the votes, and whoever won, that's where the world would be. Now, the rest of the convention, in the meantime, they'd be busy doing what most of us do at conventions on a Sunday morning. And so it wasn't like the majority of people were in this room. One year, this is before my relapse, when I was going to meetings, I did go to this World Convention. I didn't even really know it was a World Convention. I just wanted to go to San Francisco. And I knew there was some big NA thing happening. But once I got up there, I realized it was the World Convention at the Jack Tar Hotel. And it was pretty crowded. And so Sunday morning came. And somebody talked me into going to this damn thing, because believe me, I wouldn't have wanted to go. But so I went in, and it was very funny because Southern California gave their proposal, then Northern California gave their proposal, and just about when the chairman was going to call for the vote, some chick comes running down the middle of the room. Wait, y'all, wait. And we're all looking at her wondering, what's the matter with this woman? And she gets up and she said, my name is so-and-so, and I'm from Texas. She had a real Southern accent. In fact, it was unbelievable how Texan it was, because I was stuck in Texas for a while. I didn't hear one that Southern, but she was so sweet. She said, I don't have a proposal or any paperwork, but we really need y'all so bad. And so after she finished, the chairman says, okay, here's how we're going to do it. Everybody for Northern California, get on this side of the room. Everybody stand up and get on that side of the room. Everybody for Southern California, stand up and get over to this side of the room. And everybody for Texas, just stand in the middle. Well, people started shuffling chairs and, but see, a lot of people who were in this meeting, they didn't really know. They didn't know what the hell was going on. They were really moved by the girl from Texas, because she had no fancy proposal to read. She just spoke from her heart. And she spoke about how there were addicts that were dying in Texas and they really needed to hear the message. And all of a sudden it was making people think, wow, that's heavy, because, like I said, in California, they were taking it for, like it was here custom made for me. And so, of course, I went to Southern California anyway. And so I'm standing over there by Southern California, and it's pretty much even Steven on the Northern and Southern California sides, but right down the middle, Texas had the most people. But people were still moving, right? Well, this is the funniest thing. Now, this is the difference between service today in NA and service back then, or how a vote came down. You had people screaming over Texas, okay? Screaming over heads. Come on, you motherfucker. Get over here. Cursing, yelling, then all of a sudden, someone says, wake up, people. Why don't we just unite? Because if we don't get it together, Texas is going to walk out of here with it. So then you have both sides going, come on, come over here. And then the funniest thing, we have this old-timer who's still in recovery, Danny T. He's a movie star now. You've probably seen him. He's always like the badass Chicano from prison who's always getting blown up. Okay. Well, he gets up on top of a table. Now, he had like long time clean back then. He gets up on top of a table, opens up his shirt with this big, prison tattoo on his chest of a lady with a sombrero on her head. And he says, Chicanos over here! He's screaming, for Southern California, And so it was just such a heated exchange of what was happening. And finally, because of both sides refusing to budge, that's how Texas got it. And that's how the first World Convention out of California happened. And thank goodness, because once the World Convention left California, it just, wherever it went, meetings just sprang up everywhere. And even though we were all heartbroken, for the rest of the day, some of us were actually thinking, NA's over, it's gone, I can't believe it. People were walking around stunned. Even when we walked out of the room and we told people, you could hear people in the hallways going, what? I don't fucking believe it. They couldn't believe that we blew it. But where were they, right? When the vote came down, was our thinking. So that was just, world conferences back then were also very, very volatile, very heated exchanges. When people were saying, fuck you, they really meant it. I'm serious. We had, on our windshield, there was a threat put on our windshield. There was even a shooting incident. So there were people that were in recovery that were clean that I don't think should have been in service. They just maybe it's that thing where you love your sponsor and nobody's gonna mess with my sponsor. I'll kill you if you do. But it was just a different time. And now when I see the civility of some of these conferences, it amazes me. People being respectful to each other, and we have a lot more educated addicts and people who are more patient, who have thought out the issue before opening the mouth. And so it's really grown, definitely. I don't have a lot more time left, and so much. I wanted to share mostly about just a glimpse of what NA was when I got here, so that you can really appreciate what you have today, because it's such a beautiful fellowship now. We're all over the world. We're even in Iran. And what's really cool about that is that the addicts in Iran, they really let us in on the spirit of the country, you know, of other people there. And, you know, no other American group is being let in over there with such, you know, an open situation. We have the basic text now. We have literature. We have so much, and for a long time we had so little. The heavy people that I owe my life to have all died, with the exception of one woman who chooses not to come to NA meetings, but she still stays clean. She talks with recovering addicts on the phone. She has a very successful life, but she just took too much heat early on about the whole issue of you can stay clean in Narcotics Anonymous only. And for that, she really, you know, paid heavy duty for her outspokenness and refusal to stand down on that. Jimmy used to say that if you gave NA a chance, you'd learn how to stand on your own 2 feet and think for yourself. And I can honestly say that I think that just about anybody that can happen to, if you stay clean and give NA a chance. So much has happened. I mean, I got married, I got divorced, I've owned homes, I've lost homes. Because of my using, I couldn't have kids, and then God blessed me with 3 adopted babies. And, you know, now they're all grown and doing well. And I have a fantastic boyfriend. He's not in the program, thank God. He's extremely, he's so wonderful. This is a picture of him. And it's just so, you know, I am so at ease with being who I am that I really felt like I had something to bring to the table in this relationship. And instead of coming to the table empty-handed and expecting the other side to have everything. So it's nice to have that feeling where we're sharing our lives together. I did bring a couple of pictures of Jimmy if you want to see them after the meeting. I'm sorry, I could go on for 3 more hours sharing with you everything that I know about Narcotics Anonymous, but I have to get out of here. I have to leave now. But I love you all, and thank you for listening, and thank you for being here.